Now, this is that string trimmer that I have really been happy I bought. It's actually been, worth probably 2 or 3 times the price I paid for it. I've used it that much. But it does have a weak link, and that is the bearing up under here. There's a shaft that goes down through this, and there's a bearing under here that is a very cheap bearing, and the grease seal came off of it, so it was totally exposed to moisture and grass and dirt. And I knew I would have to replace it. It just wasn't convenient at the time, and now it is. So I'm going to take this apart and pull that bearing, and there might even be 2 bearings in there. If there is, of course, I'll replace them both. But I also found out something else. Let me raise this up. Oh yeah, I stained and polyurethane my workbench. I'm trying to get rid of that Donald Trump stain, because it's orange. And just use it up on stuff I don't care about. Well, you're supposed to be able to raise this up and down by pressing this in. And then you raise it up, and it gives you access to replace these strings. Well, when this gets packed full of grass, like it is now, you can't raise this up. So what I have learned, if you're cutting really tall stuff, to move this up into its highest setting, so this covers this. Hold on. So this part covers that, and the grass can't get wrapped around it. And then when you get it cut down to a normal height, then you lower this all the way down, and then you cut it even lower. But I didn't do that. So I got to take this apart. I got to take it apart anyway. One bolt, it all comes apart, and the thing that holds the bearing in is a snap ring up here. And let's see, I got one screw here that needs to come out. These are, I guess, underneath that plastic shroud. I do believe that I have a tensioner pulley there that I'll need to loosen up to take the belt off. So let me get it apart and see what we got here. Okay, that come off. One bolt, and then there's a little plastic tab that sticks down in there. I had to get a screwdriver under it and pop it up. And then 1, 2, 3 on each side. The one back there is a 5/16, and this is, I think it's a 3/8. It is, it's 3/8 up here. And voila, the belt comes right off. I can't let this go, so I'm gonna lift this up and set it down on the ground because I won't be needing it for a while. All right, now here's the bearing that I know I need to replace. This is the one where the grease seal came completely off. And actually, there is a little bit of grease in there, but it would not be long. That would be nothing but rust. And the thing is, without a grease seal in it, you can't keep the grease in there. You can't keep the dirt out. You can't keep the water out. So this little split ring right here, there's a hole here and a hole here. See how it comes out a little bit? But I have some split ring pliers that will fit in these holes, and I'll be able to pull that ring off. Now I'm hoping this whole shaft will drop down through, because on this side there's got to be another bearing somewhere. And it would be kind of cool if this split ring held the shaft in. That way it would make it just a little easier for me to get to that other bearing. So I'm hoping there's a second bearing on the other end of the shaft. But this is the thing that rides on the ground here. And I'll tell you what, this has got a good bearing. That's got a good bearing in it. Which is good to know. But I'll tell you what, and I've been thinking about this. I watched a video of a guy, his name is AVE, and he takes equipment apart to see the weak links and the hidden built-in flaws. And I believe that most equipment you buy nowadays does have a built-in weak link, and they do it on purpose. And these bearings are not something you would likely ever get a look at under normal circumstances. So they put these cheap little bearings in there with really faulty grease covers, grease seals, in the hopes that this will go out, and you'll just pitch that, because to have somebody replace this, it would cost you nearly as much as a new machine would cost. And you know, I'm a suspicious sort. I believe greed makes these companies do nefarious things like this, like build a nice piece of equipment, looks good on the outside, cranks easy, works great, and then put these cheap Chinese crap bearings in here that will fail faster than anything else on this machine will fail. Anyway, that's just my little, not a rant, but it's just what I've come to realize, that for every good piece of equipment, there is definitely a weak link somewhere, and if you can find that weak link before it fails and fix it, you know, you can make these things last forever. Anyway, that guy AVE took away a Festool, took apart a Festool circular saw, plunge gut saw, and it was, you know, well built on the inside except for one thing, a very important bearing. Instead of putting a bearing there, they put a brass bushing, which, in my opinion, is just designed for something that's built to last a lifetime. They design that one little flaw in it that they know won't last the life of the entire tool. So that one brass bushing, instead of being a bearing, would make the whole tool fail. Anyway, let me get this apart a little more and I'll show you what I got. Okay, got it out. They are 6203Z, and I just happen to have a 6203Z. Here's what I'm going to do. These are not terribly bad batteries, and if you can keep them greased, they'll actually be pretty good. Battery? Did I say batteries? Bearings. They're Chinese. KG is Chinese. But if you keep them greased, there's nothing wrong with them. So I'm going to take the grease seal off the inner face of each. I'm going to go ahead and replace that because it's got rust on it. So I've got another one. And I'm going to take the grease seal, which, let me show you what that is. That is this here. This metal ring here will come off, which is just what happened to this. So actually, they're all going to look like this. They'll have a grease seal on the outward facing end, no grease seal on the inward facing end. And I'm going to drill a 1/2 inch, maybe 5/8 hole in the front here, and then in here, hold on, let me get my pointer. Right here, it's above this bearing and below the bearing on the other end. So the grease fitting will be right between the two bearings, and when I pump it full of grease, it'll keep the water out and the grease in the bearing. So that's what I'm going to do. I think I have just defeated the built-in design flaw. All right, let me get to work. Okay, I got my outer hole drilled. Hello. Now, I have a 1/4 inch coarse thread grease fitting, a 13/64 drill bit, 1/4 inch coarse thread tap. I'm fixing to drill through that inner housing, thread it, and put my grease fitting in there. I'll show you the grease fitting when I got it in. I had to do a little Yankee engineering to get my tap in there. You know, I couldn't get my T-handle wrench in there, so I added a socket and an extension, and that worked. And then I had to pack a little piece of wood in there so my grease fitting wouldn't fall down inside the socket, but it's in there. Now, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to make this hole bigger. I don't think my grease gun will fit in there. I'm going to go get my grease gun and measure the nozzle. Be right back. All right. Yeah, I went out and measured, and it's 9/16. That was a 1/2 inch hole, so I drilled it out to 5/8, which would be plenty big. Now, I'm going to remove the grease seals from my bearings. One on each side where it will face inside. It'll face the grease is what it'll do, the one without the grease shield. And packet full of grease. But first I got to sweep up all my drillings. I don't want my dogs to step in this, get it in their feet. They're in and out of here. Be right back. All right, new bearings are in. Snap rings back on. Now, I'm going to get my grease gun, pump some grease in there, and reassemble. Okay, we're back together. That'll be easy enough to get to. And what I was saying earlier, you see the gap between the inner and the outer? Well, if you first cut with this thing raised up, the grass won't get wrapped around it. It won't get in here. And then go back and cut it as low as you want. So this is one way around, what do they call it? Planned obsolescence. And planned obsolescence is built into a lot of expensive machinery. They want you to replace the machine or buy expensive factory parts. And these bearings would be an example. If you were to order these bearings or take this for warranty work, the bearings would cost you $30, and then the labor to do all this. And in fact, they're just $2-3 bearings. They're little cheap bearings, which they work if you can keep them greased. So anyway, planned obsolescence. It's built into a lot of the things we buy, and if you can figure out a way around them, you can really prolong the life of some of the machines you buy. My Cub Cadet has got almost 800 hours on it. It's 14th. This is its 14th mowing season, and it's almost over. And they're not designed to last that long. I've, done a few things. I've put grease fittings on the bearing mandrels. I've replaced the head gaskets, which was the weak link. They failed often. Anyway, this video is not about that. It's just about a way around planned obsolescence, which this was it. Everything else is fine. Works great. Has plenty of power. I wish I had showed you the V-belt is a little cheesy, but if it works, it works. And it's not hard to get to if you need to replace it. Okay, thanks for watching, y'all. Oh, before I forget, you have a like-minded friend when he brings you an entire bag of red rags as a gift. Thanks, Dwayne. That'll last me a while.